It's Wednesday, April 9th, and here's the things we're watching in the weather world. We've got some cold air moving into the eastern states, warmer temperatures across the west. We've got decent zonal flow across the country. That's keeping things relatively warm across the west, but also pretty active here into the Pacific Northwest with some onshore flow. That will continue. And then, as I said, across the east, some pretty chilly air. And up into this region, some really cold air just setting up here into southeast Canada. Some of that trying to break off into the northeast, and we'll feel the influence of some of that. Also, over the next couple of days, there's two systems that we're watching. I call it double trouble. We've got one low moving through the lakes today, another one that will be a little bit more impactful for a lot of the east, and it'll even bring some severe weather into parts of the Tennessee Valley, down into the deep south, maybe some strong damaging winds, some hail, and a possibility of a few tornadoes. That severe risk pushes all the way into eastern North Carolina now as we head into Friday, so a couple of days of impactful weather. Let's push all of this out through Wednesday. There's the first area of low pressure moving through the Great Lakes. That's going to bring some rain and snow here. Not a lot, maybe a couple of inches though, especially on some elevated surfaces. And if we can get cold enough underneath this core of cold air aloft, there could be some decent accumulation, a couple of inches possible. And then overall, your trough built in here, you've got that chilly air below normal temperatures all the way into the south. On the other side of this, warm air and above normal temperatures across the west. That's the trend for this forecast today. As we now move into Friday, this is the second part of our equation. Another low pressure develops. This one looks a little stronger, and I'm telling you, you've got some cold air aloft. Let's watch this here into the mountains of western Maryland, eastern West Virginia, parts of Pennsylvania, maybe even southern parts of New York, into the higher elevations. I think it's going to be an elevation-driven snow. Check that out. Maybe some accumulating snow Friday into Saturday. Spring not wanting to come on strong in the east. However, across the plains, it gets warm here in the central U.S. Temperatures rebound nicely all the way up into Canada. We see warmer weather, and then the pattern starts to shift up. Then you got to wonder, all right, so you've got your next trough swinging in. What does severe weather look like heading into next week? Still pretty far out on this at this time, though. It doesn't look extreme. A lot of you breathing a sigh of relief, especially considering the way it's been over the last several weeks. I would argue maybe even month and a half now. Okay, so here's what we're looking like today across the south. Fairly dry. We do have some showers moving through parts of Missouri, Illinois, Indiana, Ohio. On the northern side of that, maybe some snow up into Michigan, but across the south, kind of quiet. Onshore flow in Florida, that's going to bring some rain showers, maybe some thunderstorms heading into tonight with that moisture moving in. And then heading into Thursday, your rain chances increase here across Tennessee, Kentucky, also into West Virginia, Western Virginia, North Carolina, Georgia, South Carolina, and then your severe risk into Thursday afternoon and evening, back across the Mississippi Valley, moving into Kentucky and Tennessee. So watch out here from Missouri, Illinois, all the way south into Tennessee, and then especially here into the deep south, northern Alabama, northern Mississippi. A few strong storms certainly can't be ruled out here. Temperatures today, there they are, warming up nicely. Tomorrow, it's going to get even warmer, especially the further south and west you go, with temperatures climbing well up into the 70s, close to 80. Further to the north, much colder here, so we're dealing with rain and snow mixing in. Maybe mixing in here across southern parts of Wisconsin into Michigan. You get the idea. If you can get the precipitation coming down hard enough, that's when you could get a little bit of snow accumulation. Once the area of low pressure at the surface swings by, we start to turn colder here, so we go over to all snow, and a little bit of snow possible up here in the Arrowhead of Minnesota with this next system that swings through, although most of that energy diving south with a few strong storms possible across this region. Highs today, not very high, 30s and 40s around the lakes. A little bit warmer, though, back to the south and west across Missouri. We're back up into the 70s. And there's your snow accumulation numbers through Thursday. I'm going to push this out. This is the European, taking it through Friday with that second system. Again, it's going to be elevation-driven here, but the idea that somebody could see a coating to a couple of inches, I don't know if you rule that out just yet. And some of the models picking up, especially at least the European and some of the high elevations here of eastern PA up into the Poconos, maybe a couple of inches of snow. Let's watch this closely. A closer look at the north and east. Here's a lake effect snow band that's going to start to wind down here. We've seen some lake effect snow off of Lake Erie in Ontario, but although not a lot, it is going to be winding down. And then we're watching our next system that swings through Thursday. That's going to bring some rain, again, into parts of Pennsylvania. We start to turn cold, and then here comes your snow starting to pick up. Now, how much do we see? I don't know. Thursday into Friday, I think it's going to be a little bit tough to time those numbers out, but look how the NAM is trying to wrap this low up and do something else. So kind of a nasty, soggy April here across the Northeast with temperatures today in the 40s and 30s. Further to the south and west, it is quiet across Oklahoma, Kansas, Texas, everything kind of going across this ridge here. And we're seeing those storms. Look at this. Just follow this all the way through Thursday and Friday. So pretty quiet out here. Highs today in the 80s. Another warm and mild night tonight across Texas, although we do drop back into the 40s up across the Panhandle. Tomorrow, though, maybe arguably a little bit warmer, back up into the 80s, pushing 90 across the Rio Grande River Valley. Further to the north, into the northern plains, the high plains, we're talking about high temperatures, warm enough for rain up here. We've seen some snow with temperatures dropping below freezing up across Minnesota, but that's going to be the trend too. Even here, it's to warm things up with more of a south and southwesterly flow. Today, high temperatures, we're back up into the 60s here. Even close to Minneapolis, we're pushing 60. Further to the south and west, this is where it's quiet. This is where it's getting hot too. Look at this. Nothing going on. Taking you through Friday now, Saturday into Sunday. Maybe some showers swinging through Utah into Colorado, some snow into the mountains, but otherwise pretty quiet out here. The warming trend continues. These will be your high temperatures today, well into the 90s into the deserts. Triple-digit heat probably on the way as we head into Thursday, especially into those desert locations. Phoenix pushing 100, even up toward Flagstaff. We're pushing well into the 70s, close to 80. Across the Pacific Northwest, even a bit of a break here, at least through Thursday, at least part of Thursday. Then our next storm moves in. That's going to bring more rain and snow here into the mountains. Some heavy rain too possible, especially up into British Columbia with heavy snow into the mountains. And it turns cooler too here with this trough digging in, so cold enough that our snow levels do start to drop back down. And here's a look at your high temperatures for today. That's all I got. See you next time.